let's get the party started. Okay, so first thing, the meeting is now called to order, and you will be, I'm sure, joyous to know that Chief Seattle is making a reappearance. So I'm just going to read a short quote. And in his speech in 1865, he said, upon being asked to sell his land, "You must teach your children that the ground beneath their feet is the ashes of our grandfathers, so that they will respect the land. Tell your children that the earth is rich with the lives of our kin. Teach your children that we have taught our children that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of earth. If man spit upon the grounds of earth, if man spit upon the ground, they spit upon themselves." That is very profound. Okay. Craig, is there anybody on Zoom? No. Okay. Okay, roll call and seating of alternates, which we probably don't have to do so. Please start. Roll call.
Martin Gorham, member at large.
Okay.
Gail Carey, member at large.
Rachel Gazowski from Parks and Rec.
Neil Slepian, Conservation Commission.
Todd Zelig, the administrator.
John Carroll, the Agricultural Commission.
Linda Kuhn.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Elliot Ung, alternate.
Veronique Luddington, Land Stewardship Coordinator.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, everybody has a copy of the agenda. So I would like to make a motion that the agenda be approved. Would somebody like to second that?
I will second it.
Thank you, Gail. All in favor of approving the agenda, raise your hand.
Aye.
All who don't want to approve it, raise your hand. Okay, agenda is approved. Okay, now we have public comments. Is there any, we have members of the public. We know that you're students and we'll talk to you afterwards. Officers, would you like to make a public comment?
We're just here to discuss the concerns regarding parking at Wagon Hills.
Oh, great.
You want me to just present on that, or?
No, not, well, I mean, if you have an opinion or if you want to let the subcommittee know what your thoughts are, please step up.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm John Lavoie. I'm a captain with the police department here. So we have been looking at some ideas to present for possible, I guess, accommodations for parking at Wagon Hill. I have been, our parking enforcement officer, Darren Baumgart, has been looking at a few different options. So basically, there are four things we could do. We could leave it as it is right now, which is there is no charge for any parking. It is basically ad hoc. People go up. There are no lined spaces. We do run into issues at times like this when there's good snow and we have a lot of sledding up there, and we've seen a significant increase in the use of the Wagon Hill property in general, I think since basically COVID 2020, and so it has really generated a lot of discussion around parking. I would say option 3 that we could do would be we looked at a gate situation. We already know there's a gate up at Wagon Hill, but it is not closed at this time. There were times in the past when it would be shut at dusk and reopened at dawn. We don't currently do that. The police department has no involvement in that, so it's essentially open at all times, although ordinance prevents parking and activity there at night, unless there is a special exception for that. So we looked at, I guess, if you think about like a parking garage or a controlled parking environment, we looked at one of those gates that would come up and down, and there would be some type of kiosk with it to control the parking. That would basically, we would say how many spots are available in there. There would be a little sign that would tell people, so as they're approaching on Route 4, the cost of that is very significant, and in my opinion is not reasonable. I think it's about $25,000 just for the equipment. That does not include site preparation. We haven't even talked to Public Works about what that would cost to fix the road there and put that in, bring power down to it. There would be a lot more to that. So that's a very big pie in the sky type of thing. The next option would be parking kiosks similar to what we have downtown. So you may be familiar with those when you park down on Main Street or any of the side roads in the downtown, that you go up and you put your license plate or your Durham permit number into for parking, whether it be paid or free in the downtown area. We would recommend that we get 2 kiosks for up there. That is also a significant expense. That would be in the order of probably $10,000 to get a couple of kiosks, and that doesn't include any power to them. We talked about, we do have solar powered ones downtown, which we would like to do up there, but there may be some considerations we'd have to look at as far as foliage coverage. We may have some problems with that, so there would be complications with that. And then the final option, which if you were interested in moving towards, this would be my recommendation, and we've talked to the administrator about this, is we currently have a contract with Park Mobile, which is a completely online experience, whether you use just a browser on your phone, through text messaging, or you can download an application. We currently have that in multiple zones. The Depot Road lot, all of downtown, those are areas that you can pull up, you see a sign, it gives you the code of what parking zone or area you're in, and then you use your phone as a payment device to do that. So that would allow us to set up, the only infrastructure we would need up at Wagon Hill, the only change would be we would add some Park Mobile signs. If you're familiar with them, they're green, they say Park Mobile and the Town of Durham on them, and they give the user instructions on how to operate it for them to park up there. We would need to come up with what that rate would be per hour. There are some complications with that. Currently downtown, we can't offer an hour free like we do to our residents, or 2 hours free for residents with Park Mobile. There's a transaction fee that takes place every time you use that. So the police department would bear that, or the parking budget would bear that cost every time there's a transaction, even if it's for free. So it would cost the town a significant amount of money if we had a lot of users that were eligible for free parking up there. But we would be able to collect, if we were doing that, in a relatively easy way with very minimal changes to the parking structure up there or cost. It's likely, we're still waiting on Park Mobile. They say they can create a zone up there, no issue. I believe they give us the signs for free. So there would, the only cost we may have would be our public works folks helping us to install those up there where we designate that they would need to go. But we would have to consider how we were going to handle the nuances of whether we give free parking to residents or not. I think that's probably a discussion point, and I'm happy to answer any questions to that or provide any insight, but that's the project in a nutshell to this point. We've looked at several different options. I think there are 2 that are reasonable. One is to leave it alone, we do nothing, it is status quo, or the second is we move towards Park Mobile with implementing some type of fee structure up there that would allow people to recreate and use it, but that they would pay a fee for parking up there.
Oh, thank you. Really good summary. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're going to have a discussion on this, and with all your knowledge, I'm going to invite you to, participate in the discussion if you hear something that you want to comment on.
Thank you.
Okay, so Todd, so we're going to move to the Wagon Hill Farm parking discussion. And Todd, could you give us kind of a little background as to how this came up? Because my understanding was that the question that you wanted to put before the subcommittee was, should non-residents pay for parking at Wagon Hill? So how did this come up, and why and when, and who is asking for this?
Yeah, so the topic's come up at least twice in the last 25 years, where there was an interest in trying to recoup some revenue from out-of-town users of the property to help pay for and support Wagon Hill Farm. And in both of the prior instances, we talked about it with the Parks and Recreation Committee and the council, and the decision at both of those times was to not move forward with parking out-of-town visitors. The thinking behind that was that Durham residents are able to use a host of properties around the seacoast, often at no cost, and Durham felt it was important to offer the same kind of opportunity for our neighbors and other communities. There was another complication that has come up twice before, which was the Oyster River Cooperative School District and our relationship with Lee and Madbury, and whether, if we were to charge for out-of-town use, whether Lee and Madbury should get special treatment because they also have recreation areas that Durham people use, particularly with ORYA, for no cost. and that was another issue that came up. We are able to charge for parking. The one thing we're not able to do, and this has come up in the past as well, is prohibit non-Durham residents from using the property. Because we've accepted federal funds over the years, the property has to be available for all, but we are able to charge a nominal fee for out-of-town usage if we'd like to. An issue before the Park Mobile app was conceived of, invented, was the significant cost of setting up kiosks at Wagon Hill Farm. And the cost for each kiosk is on the order of $8,000 to $12,000, depending on how it's set up. So if you're talking about two of them, that's a significant expense. And as John mentioned, if we need electrical, then it's more expensive. There's been discussion as well about having a system like the Park Service runs in some places where it's an optional contribution. And there's like a kiosk, and you can have an envelope and make a donation, and you put it in a box. The challenge we have with that is that we need to have a system, to secure those funds, to collect them on a regular basis, to invoice them. And frankly, the business office doesn't like staff going up and collecting cash and bringing it somewhere. We'd prefer it be done electronically so that people don't have to touch that money, just in terms of the safety of the funds and security of the funds. And we never really envisioned that would be a significant moneymaker either. We've investigated a system in Florida at one point where they had a complicated system where you go and you get a paper envelope, you write your license plate number down, you can put cash or a check in, and you put it in the secure box, and there's a section you tear off and you put on your window. So if the police go by or the Park Service goes by, they can tell if you contributed or not and compare it with what's in the box. But again, you end up with the issue of collecting the funds. And then this all presupposes the police department has the time and the resources to go up and actually monitor who's parking at Wagon Hill Farm. And that's always a challenge as well, because we have very limited staffing at many times of the day. And if they're committed on a call, and they often are, they're not available. So, we'd have to find a way to periodically send police up there to monitor who's parking. So, at least twice before it's come up, the answer was we preferred as a town not to charge out-of-town users. It's come up most recently because this was a very challenging budget year, and some residents said, well, we've just spent $1 million plus on the farmhouse. Can't Wagon Hill Farm be self-sufficient in some way financially? Could we charge out-of-town users? And the most practical way to do that is through charging for parking. We do have the Durham stickers that people from Durham have on their windows, so we have a built-in way that we already use downtown. We use it at the transfer station to track and denote Durham users, so presumably people with that sticker in the car would be exempt to park, unless we're going to do time limits, for parking. And people without the sticker would have to have the Park Mobile payment in place. But the question is whether we want to do that or not. Parking in of itself has been a challenge at Wagon Hill Farm. We have enough parking there for probably the 90th or 95th percentile. Most of the time there's enough parking. It's during peak times, which is this time of year, great snow, sledding, and the property gets slammed. And, 5-6 days a year, it's very busy. And then there are periodic times when it's a beautiful day and you've got a lot of people walking dogs in the morning and something else is happening and it's a little crowded. But a challenge with adding parking is where we would put that additional parking. And there was a plan for many years to put a field of parking near where the community gardens are, but there was a lot of opposition to that idea because the feeling was parking on the water side of the hill would kind of severely impact the feeling of the property. And we've tried to contain the existing parking in where it is now, so it's kind of shaded and screened from view from Route 4, so we've retained the pristine agricultural look as you're walking or driving by. I think, so I was hopeful to get your feedback as we consider this. I asked the police department to come up with a plan. They're not just doing it on their own to make life difficult for people. I asked them to do it so we could consider it, and as part of it, I wanted them here to kind of hear everyone's thoughts.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to start, if we may, just by taking a quick straw poll of hands based on your knowledge of Wagon Hill and kind of your gut feeling. So I'm going to say, raise your hand if you are in favor of charging non-residents for parking at Wagon Hill. Is that a no?
Next question. Next question.
That's a pretty clear answer. Okay, so in that case, I think you have the answer, but I'd like to just kind of get a feeling for why. So Dwight, you're here, so I'd just like to kind of go around the room and from your perspective, tell us why, or in this case, why you don't want to charge people for parking at Wagon Hill.
I didn't know I was included in that.
Yeah, well,
voting.
okay, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. Do you prefer to?
Well, I'm sort of on the fence. I guess one thing I would like to know maybe is, if the funds are charged, do they just go into the general coffer, or are they then targeted or focused on upkeep of Wagon Hill, or go into some sort of land stewardship fund, or where those funds are targeted so that...
Okay, so what would happen to the money, basically?
right.
Okay, that's a good question. Sarah, what's your opinion?
I think it should be open to the public. I think there's some funding issues from when we acquired the property that, and I don't know if you looked into that, Todd, about, keeping it open to the public based on some of those funds. It was like a stipulation of receiving them.
Yeah, well, Todd just...
I think there might be something in between. We can ask for donations, for example, and not that that brings in a lot of money, but we do have this stewardship fund that was established that was from community donations for maintaining trail systems. And so that might be an option, is you could put a QR code up there requesting donations to go towards stewardship and Wagon Hill Farm. You could do what Kittery does at Sea Point Beach, which is you have designated parking spots that are available for out-of-town users, with a portion of the parking lot being only available for town of Durham residents. And I am in strong opposition to increasing any parking there whatsoever. I think it's already overused and overloved, and there's severe degradation, ecological degradation, as a result of the, significant use. And so I don't think that's a solution either. So that might be where I stand. I think there's something in between.
Okay, thank you.
That might work.
Okay, Marty, what's your thought?
At this point, I'd be reluctant to charge
For what
for
reason?
parking. And an example would be, I can go to Prescott Park, and I can walk through Prescott Park, and I can find parking for no charge close to that area. So I think if I can, as one comparison.
Okay, so you're basically saying it would be unfair or inconsiderate, or I'm trying to find the right word.
I'm not completely opposed to it, but my feeling at this point is I would feel it would be rather unfair.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see Anna's on Zoom, so Ann, would you like to comment on whether you think we should or should not charge for parking at Wagon Hill? We
You're
can't
on
hear you.
mute.
You're on mute, Ann.
Use sign language.
Still can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, still can't hear you, so we're going to go around and then come back to you if we can figure out how to, and maybe Craig can help if someone is there. Okay, so, Gail.
I got it.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Too many places to do it. Pretty much second everything Sarah said. I think partly because, we have gotten quite a bit of federal funds and even state funds at Wagon Hill. So it isn't like we've funded everything that's going on there. The other thing is that I'm not, I mean, maybe the police have a plan, but I'm just not sure it would cost us as much as it would get us to charge out-of-towners. And there'd be you'd lose a certain amount of goodwill. And there's an awful lot of people, I think, who used to live in Durham, who had to move outside of the area, who like coming back there. So I don't know. It just, and I'm absolutely against increasing parking because the reason that, one of the major reasons that the land stewardship has always been against increasing parking is that the feeling that the property is already maxed out in terms of the number of people that it has, loving it. And that's why we don't want more parking. It's a way of controlling the numbers of people that go there.
Okay, thank you. Good comment. Okay, Gail, what is your thought?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that the notion of charging for parking at Wagon Hill has been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to the budget situation in the town, which is understandable, but is maybe short-sighted. That's not going to be forever. Durham's, things will change in the future. It's not going to be as constrained as it is right now. So I would be reluctant to step into that realm of charging for parking at Wagon Hill. We don't charge for parking at any of our other town lands. I think the fact that we get federal funds and state money to welcome the community there is a much higher priority than a knee-jerk reaction to our tight money situation. And it also puts a tremendous burden on the police. How do you enforce this? The money that goes into putting up a gate or kiosks. I think it's important to look at the long view here and the stewardship and the welcoming of our community members to this property like we do all our other properties.
Okay, good. So it would be unwelcoming, unfriendly to the certain, if I can paraphrase. And also I heard the investment to monitor it, we may not recoup the money. It may cost us more to charge non-residents for parking than we would get. Okay.
Can I just speak to that real quick?
Yeah, for
just
sure.
Just knowledge for that. So if it were Park Mobile that we win with, if we just hypothetical that for a moment, the current infrastructure would be nearly zero cost. It would be just revenue based on the fees that people paid to park up there. We currently do not have any parking enforcement officers that work on Sundays because there is no other paid-for parking in the downtown that's active during that time. So that would fall on our patrol division, which we have minimal staffing on Sunday day shift. It is relatively one of our slower shifts, so we don't need to staff it as highly. There would be pressure there on that day. I think that would definitely fall to them to go up and monitor that, although I would say right now they do that anyway. So in these times that Todd's mentioning and that I mentioned with the snow, those are significant impacts to us. When it is completely uncontrolled parking up there and people just show up and park essentially anywhere, the chief has to order people in on overtime. That's police overtime. It is very expensive to do that. We don't bring in parking folks for that. Or I should say, we do sometimes, but a lot of times we can't get them. So the patrol officers have to come in and work overtime details to control that. But on a general basis, on a daily basis during the week and on Saturdays, on the weekdays and on Saturday, excuse me, that we already have staff. They already monitor it. They're going up there. So I wouldn't say that there's an additional cost to having us patrol it during those times. I think the only day that would be problematic would be on Sunday. So
okay.
That is a reasonable thing to think about, and I hear that concern. But just for clarification, I think the only major impact would be on Sundays during the day.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I just echo what others have, stated. From a recreation standpoint, it doesn't feel like the right thing to do. again, like what Gail was saying about, we don't do this at any of our other properties, and would that set a precedence at, say, Doe Farm, if that starts to get busy, or Oyster River Forest, that we start to enforce parking there as well? One of the things that the Parks and Rec Committee did discuss, because we brought this up at our last meeting and just discussed it briefly, but something to what Sarah said was having like a QR code and highlighting a project or something there that we're looking to improve on or collect funds for, and that money would go, people could make donations that would go directly towards something happening at Wagon Hill.
So a donation.
But something that people can see, a project that's happening, a bridge repair, whatever it may be, that they know that if they donate it, it's going towards that.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we discussed at the committee was, with the barn or the renovations at the farmhouse and the museum coming on board, and some of the gardeners. So if we're inviting people up to take part in something happening at Wagon Hill Farm, the feeling of charging them to park may deter them from attending.
So that would be a deterrent for people to come.
Possibly.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Cardin.
Yeah, I don't want to be a politician about this. It's not like I'm running for office or anything, but
No, I didn't think so.
but I can't decide right now because I haven't seen the plan. So, we went through this tough budget cycle this last time, and with the reassessment, lots of people are being hit with pretty dramatic increases. On the other hand, I agree with everything people have said particularly about the environmental impact of having more and more people at the park. So what I'd really like to see before deciding is a plan.
I think the key question there is how could it be estimated? So that's kind of a tough crystal ball type of thing.
We wanted to early on engage the committee to get feedback before we put a plan together, So what John just outlined before you came in was 4 options. One was installing sort of an electronic gate with a counter like you have in a modern parking garage that says how many spaces are available, and that would be tens of thousands of dollars. If we installed kiosks, that was a second idea, like we have downtown for pay and display. They run $8,000 to $12,000 a piece. We need 2 kiosks, so big upfront cost there. And we don't know whether the tree canopy would allow for solar or not, so we'd have to figure that out. If we have to run electrical outlets, the cost is higher. Third is do nothing, keep it as it is now. And the fourth is using the Park Mobile app, which has basically 0 cost to set up. And then it's simply trying to have our parking officer go up periodically during the week and the Sunday police duty shift monitor over the course of a Sunday. The question, though, is what would we bring in for revenue? We don't have a hard number on how many out-of-town people are using the property. So let's say, hypothetically, 50 a day come, 50 out-of-town users a day. I don't know if that's a good number or not. If they're there an hour, we charge $1 an hour. I don't know what we charge. We have to figure that out. That's $18,000 a year over 365 days. I don't know if 50 out-of-town users a day is a reasonable number or not. So we'd have to spend some time looking at that and trying to estimate.
So I have a question. Are you trying to resolve a budget issue, or are you trying to resolve a parking issue, right? Because parking, obviously, we know that 5% there, you get these days where it is over parked in that area, and people are parking along the roads, which shouldn't happen, right? And so there's different solutions to each of those, right? I don't think that
it's a budget issue. We're not talking about adding additional parking. There's no proposal to do that. It's simply, could we bring in additional revenue to offset budgetary costs through charging out-of-town users? And hypothetically, would that have potentially a beneficial impact of deterring some out-of-town users from coming as often, which might lessen the impact on the property?
Are you planning on charging for using the historic house for that conference room? Like there's so if it's a revenue thing and you want to try to use Wagon Hill as a source for revenue, there's other ways to achieve that too, right?
I think those are being considered. Yeah, from Carolyn is not here this morning, but she has talked
She's
about
considering,
that, you know,
yes.
monetizing somehow the Bickford Chesley House by renting it out for weddings and events and that sort of thing. So I don't know if there's a plan for that, but, you know, just sticking to the parking issue, I think we have, you know, it's not, it doesn't seem like there's a firm number, but I compliment you for doing that math in your head, about $18,000, something like that. Amazing. I would have needed a calculator.
Just in terms of like event venue, so you have to think, Carolyn Singer is thinking about whether we could monetize the historic display areas. I mean, the question realistically is how many people will come on a regular basis to see such displays, and what kind of revenue would that generate?
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking about big dollars there. In terms of trying to monetize the barn, a few things to consider with that. It's a 3-season structure. It's not year-round. We have absolutely no staff to run a wedding venue and to manage that. That's a very significant effort. And we don't allow any alcohol on site. So if we're going to do wedding venues, something would have to change there too. So not to say it couldn't change, but you know, there are some limitations there.
So only Mormon weddings would be able to.
Warm, dry weddings.
Okay, John.
Well, first of all, looking at this sheet, I would note that in Newcastle and Rye Beach, you're talking about beaches, and we don't have a beach to offer.
Right.
In the case of Rye Beach, certainly there would be lifeguards. I don't know about Newcastle, but those are expensive to maintain, and it's obvious why they would be charging particularly non-residents. Wagon Hill is not in the same category, not even close to the same category.
Okay.
I favor maintaining the status quo. Our relations with surrounding towns is very important, and I think it's good for us to be able to say to residents of surrounding towns that you can come in here, the same as Durham people, but we want obviously to have opportunity to go into some of their areas and so forth in the same way. So I think it's very smart to maintain the status quo in that respect. And
So-
I don't think any of this would bring in any significant amount of money.
Okay. So potentially we could get into like a trade war with the surrounding towns.
Yeah, which is foolish.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Question?
Okay. Yeah.
How are you different with this Park Mobile? How are you differentiating between Durham residents and how do you know?
Well, downtown's a little bit different because residents can go up to a kiosk, punch in their permit number, and then we are able to track that through our electronic parking system. At Wagon Hill, it would need to be that they must display the Town of Durham resident sticker. So you come to Town Hall or Public Works to get that so that you can access the public dump or that you can park in our locations downtown for the free period that we offer. So that's what we'd have to look for. The officers would need to identify that there's a Town of Durham sticker, that it is valid for the current year and it matches the license plate, and that would be it. If you were a resident and you went up there, you would do nothing. You would just park as long as you displayed your sticker. If we start to look at other outside entities or communities, I don't know what Lee and Madbury have for resident stickers or if they even have them. So that's something we'd have to consider. But specifically to Durham residents, that would be what I would push forward for our plan or policy on that. It's just to look for the resident, a valid resident sticker, and that would be enough to allow them to park up there.
Okay.
Also, it wouldn't
What
be
are
a
the
bad...
odds that we end up ticketing a lot of Durham residents?
I don't know. I mean, as long as they were displaying the sticker, we would not issue them a ticket for that. If their vehicle didn't have it, then we would have to, because we would not know. We wouldn't have a quick mechanism to know whether they're in violation of the parking or they just don't have a sticker. So they would get a ticket in that case if we moved forward with that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And to the degree that we know when all of the parking spaces are largely taken, we can put advice into various publications and so forth to inform people that they may or may not find a legal parking space if they come at a certain time.
Okay.
Just by virtue of being helpful.
Okay,
That's
good.
it.
Linda, what's your thought?
I think not having a starting point or an idea of how many non-residents utilize the area and is that really a parking issue, then we can't determine are we going to generate significant revenue from non-residents? Because we don't even have a starting point. So I think the idea that I like the best is what we discussed at Parks and Rec, is having a QR code, and obviously then it's voluntary, but people could donate towards certain projects and improvements at that location and other locations if we put QR codes elsewhere as well.
So then even if there's very few donations, it still doesn't cost anything to the town. And
Correct.
anything that you get is just gravy because there's been nothing invested except for printing a QR code on the sign.
Right.
Okay, yep, that's a good point. Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I have to recognize that there probably is a community of Wagon Hill users that aren't in the room that we could probably tap into their, love of Wagon Farm. We're not thinking about like how much the worth of the volunteer hours that we could potentially utilize of these folks, right? And we'd probably alienate a lot of them if we started to charge them. And so it's just like, how do we involve the community that loves using the space to be part of like the plan, right? And maybe that will help a little bit as well with the parking and the dog poop, and defraying some of the costs of the management of the property. So I think like for the most part, I don't know the numbers and we'll see what that looks like. But there is not just an economic cost, there's probably a social cost that is harder to factor in right here.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
When's the last time the town has done like a community forum focused on Wagon Hill? I'm just curious. I know Stratham Hill Park did one a couple of years ago Stratham did on Stratham Hill Park. They had multiple 2 or 3 sessions, very well attended, but I think that's a really valid point. Like, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of users, and sometimes it helps to have them all in the same room, like communicating with one another.
Okay. Veronique?
So I pretty much agree with what Sarah said. At Stratham Hill Park, the consensus was that Stratham came to was one section of the parking lot is reserved for the town residents with their dump sticker. I think that's the Jackrabbit Lane or vice versa. And the other parking lot is for non-residents and they have to walk a little farther to get to the trails. At Wagon Hill Farm, obviously, we don't have that much space, so, differentiation between parking lots, but I still think maybe have some of the parking lots when you go up the road designated for non-residents. I don't think the project of trying to collect money from parking, I don't think the ill will that it would bring in the neighboring community, and also how is it going to be enforced? Do we really think people who are going to walk their dog there for 20 minutes are going to pay for an hour of parking? I'm really not sure. So my position is I don't think it solves any issue. It certainly would bring possibly revenue. I don't see it as goodwill, and I don't see it as helping with the overuse of the park, which Mr. Chairman, if I may, would like to talk about this issue that I brought up at we brought up at the Conservation Commission too, about the overuse and abuse, I would say, of Wagon Hill Farm by dog walkers. I was there last week, 10 days ago, and there's dog poo everywhere, even like right by the sign and the post that has the dog poo bags and the garbage can. I think charging for parking would not solve that either, but I would like some talk about that issue with this committee and with the police department. And DPW spends considerable time and money having dog poo bags there, having the garbage containers so people don't have to take it in their car, having signage there. There's no more signage we can add there that would educate people. So I would like personally to, after this discussion is over, have a little bit of talk about that and what people think would be some kind of solution on how to address this issue. It's an ecological issue. There's, dogs running amok, people talking and not seeing what happens with their dog there. And I think it's really damaging to the property at this point. So.
Okay, so Veronique, I think that this subcommittee should talk about that, but I want to finish the parking discussion first, and then we'll see how much time we have left, because we have until 9:25 here. We could, if everybody feels it's important to talk about this now, we could either defer that to next month, or we could take something else off the agenda for today and have that discussion. So let's finish up the parking. Carolyn, welcome.
Hi, Carolyn.
Do you have an opinion on whether the town should charge non-residents for parking?
I kind of came in on the end of your conversation. I think I'd like to investigate it a little more, but I think it would bring in revenue, and I think it might deter some dog walkers, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I agree with you about other issues related to the dogs, but I'm open to charging, but I do think maybe a big issue is the dogs.
Okay. All right, and so I'll go last. I handed out two papers, and this one that doesn't have the title on it, that starts with Dear Sirs, is a compilation of all of the letters that were sent in to Todd. And the interesting thing to me is that everybody here thinks it's basically, for the most part, it's not in the town's best interest to charge for parking, whereas of these 15 or 20 comments, only 2 said that they wanted, or they thought it was a good idea to not charge for parking. Everybody else said that they thought it was a good idea. So it's fascinating that the writers felt that we should charge and people here feel that we should not. So that's just a point of interest. And I also want to, about 3/4 of the way down, it says, I respectfully support Tom Selig's proposal. I think she confused it with Tom Selleck. To change.
It's a common mistake.
To charge anyway, I thought that was pretty cute. So there are residents in town that think it's a good idea. So at least the ones that are vocal. The other paper that you got that says Land Stewardship Subcommittee meeting, non-resident parking regulations in other towns. I did some research on it, and of the surrounding towns, like 6 or 8 surrounding towns, and I could not find any other town that charged for accessing public lands or parking on public lands. There were 3 towns that made a differentiation between residents and non-residents. Newcastle charged more for non-residents to use their Great Island Commons. Portsmouth charged more for non-residents monthly fees for parking garage. Hampton Beach restricted some residents from parking on residential streets. And I don't know what happened to my other page, but Seabrook doesn't allow non-residents to park in the beach at all. But that was, I think you brought that up about there's a big difference between beach access and
That's right.
Wagon Hill access. So anyway, we had the discussion, and I'd like to take another, actually, you know what I'd like to do, if you think it's a good idea, is just to take a vote, an actual vote, and then we could say that this is the recommendation of the Land Stewardship Subcommittee.
Yeah, we do have some counselors who are interested in talking about this further. So my plan is I wanted to get your feedback. We'll fine tune this a little more and then bring it forward to the council for some initial discussion to see if they have an interest in considering it further or not. It would require an ordinance change to allow us to charge for parking, to allow the town. So that would be a first reading, a public hearing, and action. So there'd be an opportunity for public hearing too if this moved forward.
Okay.
And I know there have been some surveys done at the property for different things, so maybe we can dig some of those up and see how many of the respondents said they were from town versus out of town, and maybe we can come to some conclusion with out-of-town users.
Yeah, I could help with that, Todd. So a number of years ago, there was a working group here, and we did on-site surveys in person. And so we took weekday, weekend up at Wagon Hill. So I have data. It's several years old, but I can provide that with you. But I don't have the numbers in my head, but my recollection is the predominance were people from out of town. But I can get you that information and when that was collected.
That's a great
pretty
idea.
easily.
Could be a great UNH student project.
And I, not that I'm advocating for this as a solution, I don't think I am, but, like AMC has, if you, or National Park Service, or say Ocean City, like down on the Jersey Shore, like you buy like a tag, you buy like for the year, right? So it'd be similar to like a sticker that you have, your dump sticker that says you're from the town of Durham. It might be that you're required to go to town hall and spend $10 to buy this either tag that you hang in your window or a sticker that you put in your, and you're required to have that in order to park at Wagon Hill. So that kind of, but it seems a little bit more like you're part of a membership. I don't know. It kind of has a connotation I don't like, but that is like another option other than the ones that you outlined. I would say that is another common practice with trails. I would say, and access to conservation areas for recreation.
I also want to point out that the uses of that property are going to be changing a bit with the Bickford Chesley House Gallery coming on, and more programming in the barn. So that should be taken into consideration.
Okay.
And that would be a different item, where if we charge for the programming, would we want to charge people to park and then to come into the house as well? So,
Well, I think, but I think I just want people to be aware that there will probably be an increase in people going to Wagon Hill Farm because of the changes.
That's a good point. Okay. Okay, so at this point, unless anybody else wants to add any other comments, I would like to make a motion that the Land Stewardship Subcommittee recommends that the town does not charge non-residents for parking at Wagon Hill. So would anybody like to second that?
I'll second it.
You second it? Okay. We already had our discussion, so if anybody else wants to get a last word in, please do. Okay, all in favor of the motion to not charge, to not charge non-residents, double negative, for parking at Wagon Hill,
Hey,
please, go ahead.
before we do that, is there a counter motion that we need more information? Because I'm not really sure how much we're likely to take in on this.
right.
And so it's hard to say. Assuming it's not a lot, I would vote to not have parking there. If we're going to bring in, $50,000, it would be a different proposal. So,
And to know that, we'll have to sort of dig into some of the survey data, because we just don't have a clear sense of that. There are some, Saturdays or Sundays on a beautiful summer day where it's mobbed, and there are other days where there's nobody there. So it's really hard to know.
Okay.
And is there something in between where you just ask people to donate and make the suggested donation is whatever, $2 to park there for an hour, and just make it, just appeal to people, explain it somehow briefly that it's expensive to maintain the property, and their contribution would be helpful,
Okay.
So a user fee, but something that someone could pay, use the QR code,
A voluntary
use
user
Apple
fee.
Pay, and
I can say
Send
that
some
we
money.
put up a little sign asking people to donate to help with the rehabilitation of the property. I think we got 4 donations from that.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, I know that like Southeast Land Trust has a QR code at every single one of their properties, and I'm not sure how much they actually get through those QR codes. I mean, I did offer it as one option, but again, I'm not really sure how
Yeah.
successful it actually is, but 4 might be better than nothing. I mean, it doesn't take much, and we already have this established fund that it can go into, that stewardship.
It
Donation
didn't
fund.
cover the cost of the sign.
Okay, but that's not charging people for parking, that's asking them to donate. So I'm gonna let my motion stand and ask for us to go around and say whether you aye or nay on not charging non-residents for parking. So we don't need.
I'm an alternate, so
Oh,
I
you
don't
alternate.
think
Okay,
you
Marty?
don't need me.
I'll vote
Gail,
on the negative.
this is
Do
So
not charge for
there was a
parking.
double
This is to
negative there.
not
just want-
charge-
To not charge,
charge
correct.
non-residents.
Yes, I agree.
Are you an aye?
That makes me an aye.
Okay. You're not a voting member. You are a voting member.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Aye. John.
Aye.
Linda.
Aye.
Okay. Carolyn.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so 2 abstains. Okay, and Anne? Couldn't hear you. Are you an aye or abstain?
She said aye.
I think so.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion carries. So the recommendation of the Land Stewardship Subcommittee is that we don't charge for parking, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't support a voluntary donation. Okay, good, thank you. That was a good discussion. I feel very energized now. Okay, so,
It also doesn't mean we'd be against charging everybody for parking, because that's another,
That's true.
another potential. If you really want to cut down on the number of people, you just charge everyone.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that's like.
I would charge
you get a
everyone.
You're
Yeah.
getting tagged.
that's good. Right.
You have to get a membership.
Okay. All right, this is complex. Did you get the information that you?
Yeah, this is great feedback, and I just wanted to be really transparent about the idea and give lots of groups a chance to think about it and weigh in. So we'll
Okay.
continue to look at it and put a plan together for the council, and we'll share your recommendation. So it's all good. Thank you.
Okay,
You
good,
could put
thank
it in
you.
Iron Ranger.
Yes.
No, I'm serious.
No, yeah, those
What is that?
those posts.
It's a post with a big metal heavy doodles like mailbox on it, and you provide envelopes.
Yep.
And you write your name on there and your address, and you put in your $5 and you stick it in the envelope.
Yeah, well, that gets back to what Todd said earlier about Gail not wanting people to go up and collect physical money, you know, and bring it back. Just kind of the danger of, you know, maybe a Brinks truck.
$10.
Yeah.
Be hijacked for $10.
Okay. Okay. So here we're at, as Elon Musk would say, we're at a fork in the road. So do we want to bring up the discussion in Wagon Hill?
Take it.
You know, since we have John and Chief Kelly and Sam here, about the issue of dog waste that has been brought up, you know, quite vociferously in the last week. So I just want to ask for a show of hands, because if we do that, we'll probably not do the project tracker this time. Go ahead.
I think I can consolidate all that still, you know, in the time
Okay.
frame that you allotted there.
Yeah, I just don't want to rush this discussion about the dog waste, because I know it's, so how about if we take, it's 9:25, how about if we take 10 to 15 minutes, or actually just say, show of hands, do people want to talk about dog poop? You do? Okay. Linda, not your topic? Okay. Okay, so Veronique brought up the point that when you were out there, if I can just paraphrase for you, that you picked up like 3 big shopping bags full of dog poo that people who were dog walkers left there. And the issue is...
And that's nothing. That's just
That was just part
a
of
drop
it.
in the bucket. It's just people are not being respectful. Dog owners are not being respectful about the property. There are also, since COVID, as everybody knows, people got dogs. There are also a lot of companies on the seacoast that are dog walking. I see people regularly with like 10, 12 dogs at a whack. And trust me, they're not picking up after all the dogs because they can't. Stratham Hill Park encounters the same issue. Wright Town Forest has the same issue. It is a serious issue as far as the damage to the ecosystem. So
Yes.
I wonder if people have advice on what we could do.
Yeah, well,
Why don't we
you have a
hold dog
comment, Art.
walking and see
Yeah,
if
go ahead.
that,
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
think, I've seen this in a town where I take my dog to a dog park. And the dog park used to be spotless. Everyone brought in their dog, they took care of it, they watched the dog, and when the dog went to the bathroom, they cleaned up after it. Now it's been totally destroyed because dog walkers come there. And they're paid to walk these dogs. They don't walk the dogs, they walk there, they let them go. They sit there looking at their phone the whole time. Dogs are pooping all over the place. They gather them up at the end and walk away. So I would like to suggest that we ban dog walkers from the park. Like, you can come with one dog or two dogs, and that's it. Might be hard to enforce. Give it to
Right.
Captain LeBoy. I'm sure I'll think of something. But but I think that it should be posted that no more than two dogs there, because it's impossible to watch, particularly when they're off leash, that many dogs and see if they're going to the bathroom and then clean up. And in fact, the dog walkers don't care. They're paid to walk the dogs. I'll say the dog walkers I've seen are paid to walk the dogs, so they make the money. They just let them go, look at their phone. It's a good gig if you can get it, I guess. But well, I would suggest that. I think the normal people who bring their dog or maybe two dogs can easily watch them, and I think they're probably more careful about cleaning up. So that would be a first step before saying, okay, we're not going to let dogs off leash.
Okay. I just comment, I sent an email around to a few people. I did a quick Google search, dog parks near me, and 10 came up. 4 of them were Durham properties. It was Wagon Hill, Town Landing, I think the third one was Long Marsh, and then there was one more that I forget. And they're not dog parks, but somehow it's gotten around to the dog owner community that you can, because we have such wonderful conservation lands and plenty of them, that people can come here and let their dogs run free. So I'd like to propose, just to get a discussion going, that we ban or retract the rule that allows people to let their dogs run off leash between 6 and 10 a.m. I think that is, my feeling is that if a person has a dog on a leash and they poop, they're likely to pick it up. If the dog is running around in the field and they're sitting there with a cup of coffee and looking at their phone, they're not likely to either know where the dog goes or to pick it up. So what do you guys think about that? Dwight?
Well, I wanted to provide just a little bit more context on why it's important to remove pet waste. As we've been revising the ordinances to try and reduce nitrogen contribution from the town to the Great Bay and our rivers and streams, one report was done in 2014 that showed that 6% of the nitrogen that actually goes into our watersheds is pet waste. So it's not just fecal coliform contamination that gets into the water, but it's also a nitrogen source problem. So, and a couple of the comments we got from the public referred to this particular report and said, why isn't the town going after the quote-unquote easy things to get as far as nitrogen removal? And one of them that was specifically mentioned was this pet waste issue.
It's like low-hanging fruit, basically.
Yeah, but I've always wondered, is that really an easy thing to do? Because clearly we have this issue in the park. So I personally am a proponent of making sure that people have their pets on a leash, but or at least under vocal control, and they're actually cleaning up after their pets. Now, how that's enforced, you know, that's a hard thing to do. But it's really, in some ways, a public education thing as well, to get people to do that. And whether the signage can be improved at Wagon Hill to include that information that might spur people on, you know, who knows? But anyway, that's the context that I would add.
Okay,
to the
thank you.
conversation.
And why couldn't you educate people and tell them if it doesn't improve, then maybe dogs won't be allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done that, Carolyn. This is a long-standing issue. Those, I've been on council, and it gets very, very emotional. But we've done that, and there's a dog walker group at Wagon Hill, and every once in a while this happens. You know, there's people aren't careful. We tell them, then it improves dramatically. We say we're not going to allow you anymore. It improves dramatically, but then it sort of goes down the tubes again. And I think dog walkers have made it worse. So
Right.
I don't know, Todd. That's kind of the history.
And by dog walker, you're talking about professional people?
Professional, yeah, people with more than 2 dogs, let's say. You advertise a service. I'll walk your dog. You gather up 8 dogs, take them to Wagon Hill, let them off the leash, and look at your phone. Then gather them up and take them off. So, yeah, that's professionals, not people. But I think if you said you can only have 2 dogs, or 1 dog if we want, that would really cut down on it.
Todd, what's your perspective on this? Because I know that you wrote that you thought it might be better to put out a notice to people before banning the off-leash situation.
Yeah, so there's an ordinance in place that requires dogs to be on leash at all times when they're off of your property, basically, or when they're on public property. But there's an exemption that lets the town administrator create a waiver. And 20 plus years ago, in working with the Parks and Rec Committee, we came up with this program to allow dog walkers to, not professional dog walkers, people with dogs, to let their dogs off leash at Wagon Hill at a certain time frame in the morning. And it worked fairly well. And as Carden notes, there are periods where it doesn't work so well, and we make an issue about it, and then it improves, and then eventually it gets to be a problem again. And it's kind of a cyclical issue. There are a few issues that elicit as much emotion as the possibility of rescinding the ability for people to walk their dogs off leash at Wagon Hill. So I wouldn't recommend wading into that morass, because it's not just Durham people, it's the entire seacoast, and the council will get hundreds and hundreds of letters, emails, angry calls. It'll make the front page of the paper. There'll be editorials about it. It's crazy. So my recommendation is we double down on education, reach out to the Seacoast Dog Group, improve signage. I wasn't aware of this professional dog walker issue, so that's something maybe we can look at. I don't know exactly how we regulate that. Maybe it is, you can only bring 2 dogs at a time. I don't know if the impact of that. We can think about it. We'd have to figure out a way to enforce that, and enforcement's a challenge because, again, we don't have the staff to put police out at Wagon Hill regularly to monitor, so it's really, we're relying on people's good graces to do the right thing, or if there is a problem, for people to formally call the police and ask for assistance, and then they'll come out.
Sarah?
All right, so Todd knows my position on this. I have always thought that dogs should be leashed at Wagon Hill at all times. Not just the dog poop issue, but the ecological impacts of dogs off leash at that location. I think that is there something in between? Is there only a certain section of Wagon Hill that they could be allowed off leash during a certain amount of time, like in the orchard area only? That might be a possibility. I think that just because there's a lot of dog owners that like to go out there and walk their dog off leash, I am a dog owner. I love my dogs and I train them. I never go out to Wagon Hill. I think there's a lot of entitled, unresponsible dog owners out there, personally. So I mean, literally, I've been out there twice with my dog, and she's been on leash the whole time. And it makes it very challenging when there's other dogs off leash that aren't supposed to be off leash, when your dog is on leash. And so it creates this dynamic. It's just, and it's not just the dog poop, it's the interaction of dogs off leash with families, with small children and other users that are out there. It is, I mean, it goes on. I mean, it's not just about dog poop, it's all these other things. And it, just because it's there, other towns have chosen not to have these rules, and there's a reason why, because they end up with the same situation. And I mean, it might be good to like talk to Stratham, because I know that Stratham Hill Park allows dogs off leash in certain areas. They have multiple users out there. And again, it's the same issues, the same complications that the town of Durham is having. And it's like, because they're this one place that the dog owners can go, just like Wagon Hill is this one place all these dog owners can go, because all the other towns have decided this is not actually something that is good for the community. And so we do get these pockets, and there is a need, right? So it's like, all right, well, how do we address the need? We can address the need, but that doesn't mean that we have to do it there at Wagon Hill. So like, what other options do we have for dog owners to walk their dogs off leash at a location that isn't going to have the same impacts that are happening at Wagon Hill?
Okay, yeah, very good, very well said. I guess the question is, even though it's been in place for, okay, Ann, go ahead. Your turn.
I just wanted to point out that I really think when you see a lot of dog poop, like right along the trail in the winter, I think that is not necessarily, I think you need to double down too on just people walking their dogs and not picking up poop who have them on leash. Because normally those dogs would probably step off the trail a little bit more and it wouldn't be as noticeable. You wonder how much dog poop we've got during the most of the year in just sort of the general woods area if you're seeing that much along the trails during the winter. It just, and I noticed this just in another town that I walk in Mass, where I thought this one park was doing a great job, that no one everybody picked up after their dogs, and because they had just like we do, they have a trash can and bags. And now it's winter time, and I was just distressed that they're not the number of just poop all along the trail. But probably, I just never noticed the stuff that was further off, and this is also next to the water. So I think that when we complain about the amount of poop at Wagon Hill, just don't blame it all on the dogs that are off leash. I mean, I'm sure that makes it worse because obviously it's harder to know where your dog's pooping when they're off leash, right? But I don't think the people who have their dogs on leash are all picking up after their dogs either. And so I think you ought to broaden your message a little bit and include all dog walkers, all people with dogs at Wagon Hill. And the possibility that you could just like ask people not to bring their pets there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a good point, though. There are irresponsible dog owners on leash and off leash. But the question I'd like to pose is, even though it's been a policy for 20 years, why do we owe the region a dog park?
Well, from a purely ecological point of view, it would be better to require the dogs to remain on leash or to prohibit dogs altogether, one or the other. You have only to walk down to the mudflats and look out to see the dog footprints everywhere. And we had one user who swore up and down it wasn't dogs that were impacting the salt marsh. And we went down and said, look, those are not duck footprints. They're dog footprints.
Yeah, right.
And it's clear. So, but the town doesn't owe the region anything in that regard, but we do have a lot of Durham residents who feel dogs need to run and there are limited places to do it, and this is a place they cherish for that purpose, and they don't want to give it up, and they're very protective of it.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Why don't you prioritize what you think are the key points? And I would think no offense, I'm going to make a lot of people mad, but I would think the environmental issues would take precedent over, you know, kind of the feelings people have about walking their dogs, or they can maybe go other places. I
Right.
think you should establish benchmarks of what, you know, you want for the property and measure them periodically, and if things aren't getting better, then, you know, take action. But I'm concerned that after this meeting, you know, things might, you know, not necessarily change that much. I'm not a dog owner right now, but my daughter certainly has too. And, you know, going out and picking up after the dog is just part of what you do. And if people aren't doing it, then close it down to them. I'm sorry, but I don't agree, Todd, that we have to be so kind when people are clearly not doing what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'll say is, like, I know some Durham, I've spoken to some Durham residents who live in Durham, who supported the protection of Wagon Hill and do not go to Wagon Hill to walk ever because of the dog and the dog issues out there. So, I mean, there's stories both ways, right? You're getting a community of dog walkers out there. That's not meeting the needs of everybody inside the town of Durham.
I mean, as a community, we have no obligation to provide space for dog owners to bring their dog. That's not the responsibility of any community. And I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. You know, let's limit it to maybe 2 dogs. So you're reducing these professional groups from bringing multiple dogs to walk. I'm not a dog owner. I like dogs, but I want to interact with them on my own terms because I'm highly allergic. And so just like the irresponsible pet owners, their dogs are off leash and this dog's racing at me at Wagon Hill, and the owner is, you know, 20 yards away yelling, "He's friendly, he's friendly." I don't give a flying F if he's friendly. I don't want him jumping on me. I don't want him getting on me because then I'm gonna have an allergic reaction. I think they should all be on leash before the next step is you ban dogs at these public places.
Or you create like a real dog, like I said, like and I mentioned this to Rachel, is there a way that you create a fenced-in area near that upper orchard where dogs can run free, right? You pick one area, you actually fence it in, right? And I know that dog owners want their dogs off leash and running down the trails. I do too, okay? And I do. I bring my dog off leash. She's 100% under voice control. Our new dog is on leash all the time. I leash my dog anytime I get even within like 100 yards of another individual or another dog. I pick up, like, they're just these basic things that you should be doing as a dog owner. I feel comfortable doing that at Oyster River Forest. I feel comfortable doing that at Long Marsh. But again, I would never ever do that at Wagon Hill or some other properties. I don't go to Stevens Woods with my dog. Okay, so like I recognize the limits of like where that's okay and where it isn't, or more acceptable. And I just don't think there's enough of that type of dog owner out there. Like I recognize that, but people need their dogs to be off leash and running around. Like that's what dogs need. And so finding a couple properties that can support that as an alternative. So, and encouraging people to go there instead might be an option.
I think the point that Carolyn brought up about the priority for the town, and certainly for us in Land Stewardship and Conservation Commission, is the ecological and natural value, natural beauty value, not just beauty, but also the ecological value. You talked about the mudflat situation, and in the summer, who knows what small animals are being disturbed on the land. So I don't know where to take this right now. Do we have a vote? Do we just recommend? Because I think that I'm hearing that there's not a lot of support in the room for allowing dogs to run off leash at Wagon Hill.
Just a few other points. One is this summer we are gearing up for the next phase of the shoreland restoration. It's spending almost $1.9 million of NIFWIF funds. That's the National Fish and Wildlife
Sorry.
Fund, Service Fund. And so that's, I think, a relevant point. I think Sarah is absolutely right. We do regularly hear from residents who say they choose not to go to Wagon Hill Farm because of dogs off leash. And the other reality is that, unfortunately, there are many people who don't abide by the limited period to keep your dogs on or off leash. So they're letting their dogs run over the course of the day. And because we have no staff to monitor this, it's really sort of based on an honor system.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Question?
no, go ahead, Gail.
Yeah. So there's a Seacoast, when this issue arises, as it's been doing in the past, there's a group of Seacoast dog walkers that banded together to increase education and right the ship. Would it be worth it to connect with them to say, we're having an issue, the professional dog walker has really exacerbated this issue, just to sort of lower the temperature, let them know this is what's happening? I understand that we don't want a lot of negative press and emotions and all of that flying around, but at least opening the door with them to express this is the current state of things. The issues come up about, should there be a place that's fenced in where people can bring their dogs to run free? And what are your thoughts about that? And where could that be? It doesn't have to be at Wagon Hill. Yeah, it could be another spot. And would this group be willing to take that on or help to fund it? Or so it's that's a question.
Okay, thank you. Dwight?
Yeah, I was going to say, Todd, with this NIFWIF funding, is there an educational component associated with that shoreline restoration? Because if there is, maybe focusing it a little bit more on maintenance and care of the environment and the watershed, could focus on dogs and their impacts and sort of integrate that into helping provide more educational information on kiosks and stuff up there on Wagon Hill as an idea.
The other thing that might be curious is that I know that there's a water quality testing lab at UNH that has the ability to test the water and looking at the E. coli, they use DNA. They know how much of that E. coli is coming from dog waste versus beaver waste versus human waste. And so there's an ability to differentiate and really understand like where the impacts are coming from. So that might be kind of interesting too. It might shed some light on what the actual impacts might be from that dog waste at Wagon Hill.
Yes, Veronique.
No, I wanted to answer Dwight. There are about $15,000 that were earmarked for outreach for the project through the NIFWIF money, and the contract's been awarded to SRPC with Cal Pimentel. We're going to work together with Retrain and Cal to do so. I'll add that to the list of what we thought would be important to use, as far as education. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay. So I've heard three options here today. One is rescind the opportunity for dog owners to let their dogs run off leash at Wagon Hill at all. In other words, requiring that they be on leash like they're required on all our other properties. Number two is create a separate area fenced in where like a little mini dog park that people have to have their dogs in that area only off leash. And the third option is to perform outreach and education to remind people of what the rules are and what damage is being done to Wagon Hill ecologically from not picking up, and with the potential threat that if it doesn't improve, then that right will be rescinded. So of those three options, I guess I just kind of want to take a straw poll. Who?
And then Cardin's point.
Could I just add to that third option of talking to people, restricting it to 2 dogs a person?
At the same time.
as part of that. So as, Todd has said, and as we've gone through over time, you have to, go back to the dog owners, and there's this group, and they seem pretty organized, and tell them, hey, we're going to take it away. But guess what? We're already going to take it away from more than 2 dogs because we've just had it. Now, I don't go out there either with my dog, or when we go late in the day and the dog's always on leash. So I'm not sure if professional dog walkers are a problem here, but I know they're a big problem in other towns that I've seen. So, so if we restrict it to 2 dogs per person, that should be part of the action to show people that we're serious about it. That, you can only bring 2 dogs now, and if it doesn't clean up, we'll take further action.
Okay. Yes, Veronique.
So that's a great idea, Cardon. My question is always, how do we enforce that?
Okay,
Because I've been at Wagon Hill Farm and I tried to talk to somebody who had their dog off leash after the 10 a.m., who was jumping on handicapped adults that I volunteer with as a group, and the person was really scared. The dog owner was on his phone with his back to us. I walked to the person and got a very sarcastic response. And so how do we enforce that? That's...
Yeah, I would say, for one thing, the dog owners themselves will enforce it if they understand that we could take away all the privileges. So they've been pretty good. Like when Todd talks to them, all of a sudden it gets cleaner, and they enforce kind of each other. If we pass this rule and people are still showing up with 7 dogs, I think the other dog owners will talk to them, and they might even call the police to come. So I would leave it on them. I don't want to waste the police time, counting dogs as people show up. But I would leave it on them. And either way, if it gets cleaner, we've solved the problem. If it doesn't get cleaner, then we'll have to take another action.
So how are we going to, though, measure whether it's cleaner or not? I mean, if it were me, I would kind of establish benchmarks and timelines so that
Yeah, I know, Carolyn,
you got a way of
but
measuring things.
that would be cool, but it's kind of hard to measure. I mean, you can, actually, Ann and I do this. You can count when you go through, but I mean, I think it's difficult to measure. What happens usually is something like this, like Veronique or someone else goes and says, hey, this is really bad.
But is it possible to measure water quality?
I don't think, I heard what she said, but it's tidal.
Because it's tidal,
So
yeah.
the water's, it's not like it's a pond or a lake there, it's tidal. So I think it's gonna be hard to isolate what comes from the park poop and what comes from, the rest of the town.
Other sources.
So,
Well, at the risk of being laughed at, one thought I had, and I brought this up at the Conservation Commission meeting, was that you could get volunteer groups to go out there once a month, pick up dog poop, pile it up, take a picture of it, and put it out there, and then you could get a measure of, in a relatively qualitatively way, what's going on there.
I mean, just to put it in people's faces, basically, not
Yeah.
literally, but to
But
say,
just to sort
this is
of-
the problem.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if you did it in the same area over and over, you could get sort of a relative idea of, is the problem getting worse, is it getting better, that sort of thing.
And that could be part of the education outreach as well. Yes, Ann?
Yeah, but how many times are we gonna do this? We've already done this. Obviously, there was no long-term change in behavior at Wagon Hill. I mean, this is like the 3rd cycle of this, and you were having the same discussion and all the same possibilities and everything all over again. At one point, do we say, enough is enough, and, having somebody clean up when it got really bad, and then it's good for another maybe 6 months, and then it starts all over again. I don't know. I mean, how many chances do you get?
Right.
Yes, okay, 2 more comments, and then we're going to take a vote and then move on.
Yeah,
Yes.
just one thing I was going to propose is since we have the restoration, the shoreline restoration work are going to be starting soon, some trails are going to be closed inherently because some trees have to be cut and a whole lot, access has to be. Could we use that opportunity to try to somehow reduce the use of the park just by sheer communication? These trails are going to be closed, so the area accessible is not going to be as big. Can we reduce the use of the park this way for now and take that opportunity to educate at the same time about the overuse of it and the degradation of habitat?
You could close it down to dogs altogether during that time, and then when you reopen, you have new regulations.
Yeah, because the other question is how are people with dogs off leash, how are they going to prevent their dogs to go into the work area? I mean, the DPW is not going to fence all the area and close all the area. They're just going to block trails. So how are we going to restrict the dogs off-leash access to the work area?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Elliot, you got a comment?
Yeah, it's like this is a classic tragedy of the commons issue. And just to add on to the long term, as Anne pointed out and some other folks, is it not possible to maybe engage with these dog walkers, to come up with a management plan with the town where they will be the ones taking point on they probably know the best, they know each other, they know the best way to kind of manage all of this, and they have more power than us saying oh, don't do this unless we involve the police, right? And they want to keep it as open as possible. And if they don't kind of enforce their own community, then we have no other choice, right? So I wonder if we want to make it more sustainable to actually come up with, as Carolyn pointed out, and Dwight, I think Dwight's idea is a great idea, by the way, to just put it in front of people, this is the cost that we as a town are kind of taking on, and we need your help so that you can also continue to use the space. Yeah, so that's my comment. If we can come up with a long-term plan that we can refer back to, that we won't run into the issue of the up and down of dog poop. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is have someone make a motion, if you'd like to make a motion, Carden, and see what we get in terms of buy-in for making a recommendation by the Land Stewardship Subcommittee to deal with this problem, and whether we do it in, as you were recommending, and then public outreach, and then set a time limit for it to improve, and then if it doesn't improve, the action is going to be to, the recommended action would be to rescind the privilege of walking dogs off leash. So please go ahead.
I recommend that we ask the town to engage with the dog owners, remind them of their responsibilities, and let them know that if it does not improve, we are likely to close the park to dogs walking off leash. Further, as of some date, no one can bring more than 2 dogs to walk off leash at Wagon Hill.
Okay, second, who'd like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of Carden's motion for a recommendation? Let's just go around.
I'm going to vote no because I simply think it's not strict enough.
It's not what?
Strict enough. I think we. I don't think we should make a further appeal
Okay.
to the dog walkers. I think we should ban off-leash dogs and maybe even limit it to 1 dog on leash per person or no dogs. So
Okay.
I just think it's too generous, and so I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Gail?
I would vote no. In addition, I think it perpetuates the cycle that we've been going through, so it's another round of that. And so I don't see it accomplishing what we want to accomplish. I like Veronique's suggestion of using this opportunity where we've got shoreline restoration going on, we've got trail restoration going on, as an opportunity to close Wagon Hill to dogs for an 8-month period because we've got this work going on, and use that as a reboot to engage with the dog community, to have discussions about the issues. It provides a nice long length of time to allow that to unfurl. So that's a long-winded way of saying
Because
I would
you're
vote
voting
no.
no on that. And I'm going to vote no because I don't think the town owes a regional area a place to run dogs off leash.
I vote no for all the reasons stated.
I vote no, and I agree with Gail's comments.
Carolyn?
Well, I probably will vote no too, because I'm apt to go more for a stricter option.
Okay, and Anne? No. You vote no. Okay, that's going to cause trouble at home now, you know.
I know. So I have a question. Could there be some sort of like survey that goes out to the town of Durham community members about use at Wagon Hill? And beyond, like, I would say, I know that we did those, like, user, that Stewarding Our Lands working group did all those surveys. And, you know, you are limited to how people respond. But I think that because this is such a hot topic button for so many people inside of Durham, that there might be some benefit of sending out like a paper survey or questionnaire asking people about their use at Wagon Hill. How often do they visit? What activities do they undergo? Like what they envision as far as the property and the value that it brings to the community, and kind of get that feedback, because I think that we will hear from both of these sides. We will hear from these dog walkers who really, but you'll also hear from these other community members who might not be using Wagon Hill because of the current use. And I think they're kind of the silent partner here. There's a lot of noise made from the dog community and not a lot of noise made from everybody else. And it's a Durham property. So why are we catering to the greater Seacoast area when we should be thinking about what Durham residents want for that property?
One
right?
thing I think we have to remember, though, too, Sarah, is that, you know, Durham bought this land, and there's an initial discussion or an additional statement as to what the land's for. So no matter what we do
Right.
now, I think we have to adhere to that statement. So maybe it would fall within that, but we can't all of a sudden, you know, build a football field or something like that there. It's fairly open but somewhat restrictive as to what we can do there.
Good point.
But since mine was turned down, someone has to make a resolution that gathers more than 50%. So I think someone should try and do that.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Gail to make a motion on your idea, and which kind of plays off Veronique's comment, to close it to dogs during the construction and
Reevaluate after.
what's that?
Reevaluate after.
Yeah. You used the word reboot, which I think is good. So please make a motion.
So
Can I ask for a clarification? Is it no dogs at all or dogs only on leash? Because you can have dogs on leash and prevent them from walking on the trails that are that DPW has to close, right? Sorry, I'm looking at you, Sam, but DPW is here, represented here in the room, so.
I'd recommend dogs on leash only.
And I don't know if Sam
Personally.
has a
No? You say
recommendation
no?
either with the upcoming project about his thoughts about dogs on leash or off leash. And do you want to, sorry.
I would stick with
Put you on the
Gail's original
spot.
comment of no dogs at all, because who's going to regulate dogs on leash and letting dogs run off leash? So I would go with no dogs. When is this construction due to begin? So I would go with no dogs during the construction and have a new set of rules if and when the decision is to allow dogs back after.
Okay, Sam, please comment.
Sure. Yeah, I can answer a couple of those questions. So the construction, tree clearing specifically, is set to start as early as next week.
Wow.
I have a meeting out there with the contractor today, a follow-up with the tree contractor tomorrow, and they're looking to get started as soon as possible before the temperature warms up too much and we lose
frozen ground.
what frost we have for the heavy equipment that'll be out there. We did talk about how to handle, the trails that are under construction, specifically related to dogs, at a meeting that we had a few weeks ago. We recognize that it will be difficult in the morning during those off-leash hours, to enforce folks that are walking around the trail closed signs. We do feel like there will be a lot of activity down there. And with the amount of heavy equipment that will be present, it's very dangerous, for the operators to have to look out for dogs running around. So I would agree with, the proposed motion that dogs, not so much that they be banned from the park during construction, I think that's very restrictive, but they should at least be on leash.
Okay.
Sam, how long is that construction period?
That's a great question. Forget off the top of my head when the substantial completion date is, but I think it's later this fall.
In the fall, okay.
Yeah.
In the fall, so it's going from next week till the fall.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Gail, would you please make a motion based on your recommendation? And you can make your motion either with leashed or no dogs at all. Whatever you think
before I
is-
make a motion, I just want to get a sense of people's opinions about leash versus no leash.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
who thinks it's
know,
reasonable to ask for dogs on leash only during that construction period?
I'm sorry, leash versus no dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are the two. No dogs at all.
Okay, so are we saying, so let's ask for people who want to do no dogs at all.
No dogs at all.
Please raise your
Could I
hand.
just some clarification. So if the goal is to require dogs on leash during this construction period to keep the dogs out of the construction equipment and the sensitive area while it's being disturbed and all of that, then that's simply a matter of my rescinding the waiver for some period of time and then revisiting later on in the season.
I think that's what we're saying, yeah.
If the goal is to ban dogs, that's a little different because we have no legal authority to do that right now. We need to probably go back to the council and have our ordinance crafted. So it's a more complicated process, just to let you know.
Okay, that's
Okay,
helpful
so
to know.
if we're going to make a recommendation, it's probably better to say leashed to rescind the waiver for that period of time. That's more reasonable and easier to implement. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I make a motion that, that the Wagon Hill dog, let's see, let me back up. That during the construction phase, the restoration phase at Wagon Hill, which should cover about a 6-month period, that dogs must be on leash during that period.
Okay, who would like to second that? Marty?
Is there going to be any limit to the amount of dogs on leash? Should we do, or is that not practical?
I think it's practical. I think you could limit it to 2.
Could have.
It's really hard to walk 3 dogs at once on a leash, unless you're a professional dog walker. And we don't really want them there. So, and it's hard to clean up more than if you have more than 2 dogs on leash.
So would you like to add that to your motion?
So
Gail,
limiting it
to
limiting it to 2 dogs,
Okay,
and they must be on leash at all times.
okay.
And I will second that.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? Ann, any comment on that one?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor, let's just go around the room for the voting members. Marty?
I vote yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Oh, okay, sorry, Ann. floating up there in the
And
sky?
me.
And you, okay, the motion carries. Okay, so.
Unanimous.
It is unanimous. So it's a recommendation. Obviously, we don't have authority, but that's our strong recommendation. Okay. All right, thank you.
Can I just ask, Neil,
Yes.
engaging with the dog community, because we want to do that also, how does that happen?
That's a good question. Engaging with the dog community. I don't know.
I saw
I don't
Tom
have a
had
quick
reached
answer.
out to.
In the past, Scott Latorno and Lynn Howard have been the kind of lead for that group, so I'll reach out to them and get some feedback from them. I think this is probably something I'd bring to the council as well, just to get the council's feedback and thoughts, and so this is helpful guidance. Thank you.
Okay.
Can
Yes,
I make
Karen.
a motion?
You
I would
may,
like to
of course.
follow up on Gail's recommendation to look into sort of a fenced-in dog park somewhere in Durham.
Yes, Ann.
Can I just say, I mean, a fenced-in dog park sounds fairly simple, but, you know, when you fence in an area, and then you tend to have it open longer, and then there's a whole ton of dogs. All the dog parks I've been in, you know, it's not just that you put up a fence. That the dogs then will tear up all the ground, so then you have to put in another surface, and you have to maintain that surface, and you have to, you know, you have to clean it. You have to. I'm just thinking of the different things they do. Medford has 2 of them near their in Mass, near their elementary school, and you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not just, and so you're talking about at one of our conservation areas, sort of digging up a whole section of a property and putting down another surface. It seems to me, if you're going to be actually put in a dog park.
So I have
It's
seen,
not like putting a fence around an area.
well, I have seen some that don't follow that model in Athens, Georgia. And they're very successful and they're beautiful. So maybe we can just look at some options.
Yeah.
So Carolyn, do you still want to make your motion? Or,
I might as well, you can vote it down.
okay, so please go ahead and.
Just make a motion to look into the possibility of a fenced-in dog park somewhere in Durham.
Okay, does somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, let's, any more discussion on that? No? Okay, let us vote.
Yes.
You vote yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the only thing that we're. I'm sorry, Ann.
And staying in Bedford tonight?
Was that a yes?
No, it was a no.
Or is it no?
That was a no. And Carolyn?
Sam, how do you feel about maintaining a dog park?
Okay.
On your shoulder.
Okay, so the motion is to look into it, to do some
It's
research.
just to
So-
look into it.
It's just a look.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Carolyn, can you take the lead in looking into that?
Yes, but don't expect results immediately.
I will not. No. Okay, now, let us close the discussion. We have 15 minutes left. I don't want to go late, so I'm going to ask for 5 minutes each on the next 3 items, so no more than 5 minutes. So the kiosk sign working group update from Gail Carey.
Yes. So, very briefly, the kiosk sign working group has, at a recent meeting, we, number one, closed the possibility of working with John Fernald. I think I mentioned that. And are looking into working with the Portsmouth Sign Company for doing the kiosks. Number 2, that we've identified properties that need small kiosks, 3 of which have been built, right? And large versus large kiosks. We've identified properties that need kiosk updates versus brand new kiosks. And Veronique has graciously put together a lovely spreadsheet that lists these properties, those needing small, those needing large, what's needed on the signs. And so the working group is fleshing that out. We'll be meeting in another week and a half to continue our work on that. How's that?
That's good.
That's less than 5 minutes.
That was quick, yeah. Okay. So I just have a question on engaging the Portsmouth Sign Company. So are you going to wait until after the copy is done for each of the properties and then engage them? Or are you going to ask them to, to kind of come up with some concepts and?
Yeah, so I'm engaging them to come up with concepts and pricing that matches,
Okay.
knowing that we will have to provide the content first, obviously. So that's the goal.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so that is the next step, and
Yep.
someone on your subcommittee will be responsible for reaching out. Okay. Okay, we have a beautiful drawing in front of us that was done by Marty, and thank you so much, Marty, for doing this. So would you like to speak about what we asked Marty to do, Veronique?
Yeah, Marty has designed and priced out the cost of building a sign, a full-size kiosk, obviously with volunteer work. So the cost label there is just the materials. So thank you, Marty. That's a great, start, and for us to have like a kind of a price point on what we're looking at for building new kiosks. So thank you for your contribution.
Okay, so Ann, Cardin will bring the copy home for you to see, but the thing that for me is very exciting about this is that for around $800, we can have a full-size kiosk that we could put information on one side or
both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides of those.
And to engage volunteer labor for the building, that will basically be the whole cost of the kiosk. So I know that if we were to engage a contractor to do this, it would probably be thousands of dollars. So I'm very, very happy about this. And Veronique, you will take charge, obviously, of getting the volunteer labor and the materials and all that
once we get
stuff.
to that point, yeah.
Okay. Now,
Marty, how does the material get attached to this? Like the maps and things?
meaning what? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's
we're
a
going
good
to put
point.
maps on here.
Yep.
How are they attached?
They're usually screwed in, with
No, but are they laminated or how are they weatherproofed and graffiti proof?
well, hopefully down, when we figure out funding and everything, there'll be professionally made signs. So there'll be that, that man-made material.
Like a plastic.
And
clear
usually
plastic.
there's pretty easy ways to clean graffiti off that.
So with this kind of kiosk, you typically would use like aluminum, and then
Right.
they paint over that, and then they put on a coating over the top of that.
Yeah, so it's like laminated.
And yeah, so they're laminated. Kind of some of the smaller trail signs you usually see can be made out of like corrugated plastic, right? And so, but that's not the type of material you would use on
Right.
this. I think the thing that's maybe the most disappointing to me, to be honest with you, the last time we used the Portsmouth Sign Company, and maybe they've changed this, is like some of the kiosks, you can see some of the maps, they're fading over time, the print job, and so, I don't.
Yeah, we'd have to
there-
see
you'll
what
have to,
we'll
like, we'll
use.
talk about that a little bit, but that's traditionally how things are mounted, and then you just use screws to mount them.
Okay.
And Veronique could talk about how easy it is to clean graffiti off of these. It depends on the paint, but I find I would say rubbing alcohol, but I honestly think hand sanitizer works best,
Yeah.
which is just a variation of rubbing alcohol. But it can come off of these fairly easily.
Okay, great.
Not the wood, though.
No, the
That's
wood you have
issue
to
with the
sand.
wood, is that
to sand
at
it.
Thompson
Yeah,
Forest,
Forest, you have to
there was
sand
an
it.
issue, and you've got to go out there with like a palm sander and sand it off the wood if there's graffiti. We had the same thing happen at Mill, and then it ended up being sanded off
Okay,
on some of the park benches.
great. Thank you very much, Gail and Veronique, for that. And now let's go on to the accessibility improvements at Jackson's Landing. Rachel and Linda and Veronique.
Okay, so we have a subgroup with Rachel and Erin Guillot,
Yep.
and Linda from Parks and Recs committee. And we've been working on figuring out what improvements we can make at Jackson Landing for accessibility. I had a meeting with some residents from Riverwoods about what they would like to see there. We are exploring a grant from AARP, kindly recommended by Caroline. There's a flagship community grant, which we are planning to apply. The deadline is March 4th. So we're working on that. They want us to show that we are obviously improving accessibility for people 50 and over. And so it's mostly focused on amenities like benches, sun canopy, but also on, the trails. So we're planning to apply for some amenities, but also for some materials to improve the tread. And so we're working together. We're meeting after this meeting. We're having another meeting, and then Rachel and I will sit together and do the application. This is kind of like a quick turnaround grant if we get it. All the work has to be done by mid-December. We will have a decision by May, and the funds would be disbursed by June. It's up to $15,000, so it's not negligible. We thought with some other, efforts, we could do something really positive for improvement at Jackson Landing. So that's, I don't know if I forgot something, but that's what we're working on.
No, but good summary.
Okay. So, and that $15,000, assuming we get it, will be used for materials? Like,
Yes.
like the gravel, crushed stone?
Yes,
anything else that's
exactly. And
needed?
then the labor would be, we would work together with volunteers. Some people from Northeast Passage are ready to help us gathering volunteers from UNH, and then just regular volunteers. Yeah.
Is improving the view trail
Yeah, it's part of it.
that?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to go on to the project tracker and maybe combine that with your update?
Yeah, so I think I passed the project tracker, and that's just like the priority ones, because people have asked over time for me to give a printout of things, but I keep updating the tracker online. I'm certainly happy to provide updates at every meeting on what's getting done. I think this time what got done was the benches were built with the Scouts on January 24th with the help of Troop 154 and also some of the regular volunteers, including Neil. We built benches and we built the small kiosks that we're planning to install at different properties with our subgroup project.
And those are currently stored at Wagon Hill?
Yes, those
Okay.
are stored at the basement of Wagon Hill. There's 10 benches and 4 signs, and the plan is to install them as soon as the weather permits.
Okay.
And the Scouts will be part of that effort. I have them, we're working on a date in April, late April with them. And the Scouts, have to say, want to keep being involved and do a work day a month. It's obviously on a Saturday, but I think it's really helpful that they and encouraging they want to keep being involved with land stewardship. Other than that, astronomy night was moved indoors because it was too cold and not a great view of the sky, but it got great attendance, great feedback. That was late January. We had 23 participants, and the presentation by John Gianforte was really interesting. We had the presentation at the library on the cost of managing invasives. It was well attended, and it was mostly focused on the economics of managing invasives. So I will work on getting probably Doug Saigon to talk more about, the invasives that are in our area, what we can do to manage them like on the ground, which is quite really the information people are looking for. And Diana Carroll's presentation on the Milne with myself is rescheduled to April 7th. And that was so we can have somebody from DCAT being able to film it, so we can have it for the website. The next Discover Durham Trails walk is on March 15. It's Snowshoe and History at Longmarsh, and Janet Mackey has kindly agreed to give me a little history synopsis since she can't be present. And we're still working on having somebody talk about the geology aspect of it also. Anne, Neil, and myself have been working out a BioBlitz timeline, I have the first posters out that I can pass. We're going to put these posters around. These posters are just a save the date until we have the schedule finalized with all the experts designated. And so I can, then we'll post a registration online, and Rachel has kindly agreed to help us with that part. I've put a call out to experts, and I've already gotten a lot of positive answers, so it's very exciting. I'm trying to make sure that I have at least 2 experts for each hour time, so that if something happens, we still have someone. So I'm very hopeful on all that, and I think we started early enough that we'll be ready when the date comes in May. I've been working with Steve Lotterman and on having a Survey 123 app for volunteers to enter their work hours themselves. So I think we talked about that before. We always talk about how many volunteer hours. We should really keep track of them. And for some trail stewards or people who like work on their own to help us out, there's really no way to track, the hours. So, and they do that at Great Bay Estuarine Reserve. They have had a Survey 123 forever. And it's just, educating people about entering their hours themselves, so we can really tally all the volunteer hours, because I think that's important. So Steve is still working on it, but we'll have that ready for the spring, and it will have a barcode associated to it. And I'm planning to educate people at first, having like a sheet with the barcode at work days, to get people at the end to say, don't forget to enter your hours, things like that. So I think it'll be a good. It was an easy solution to tally the real volunteer hours. I'm working with Lee Alexander from the Agricultural Commission on possibly placing a beehive at the meadows and using it as an opportunity to educate on pollinator and habitat management. And so he has kindly offered to the physical hive itself to provide it, and to educate me or anybody who's willing to learn more about beekeeping. And we just will have to purchase the nucleus, which is, to get the hive started, and it's about $200. He's offering to purchase it along with the ones he purchases for other hives. He has hives at Woodman Farm, at Emery Farm, all over the place. So we'll figure out how to get the funding for that. And I'm really, right now, I'm working on starting to plan the spring day. So I already have 4 work days scheduled. I'm reaching out to people who had either volunteered last year, the groups from UNH, or expressed interest, made some new connections through the Scouts. A woman who's a math professor has UNH, wants to engage her class. So we're scheduling that in April, May. So really working on, starting up as soon as the snow's off the ground, all the field work. I rescheduled the trails webinar because I had 4 people signed up. I think because of the snow out there, people are not really thinking trail maintenance and things like that right now. So I'm going to send another doodle poll and reschedule it for probably super early April, so that I get more people, signed up. That's it for now.
Very good. That's a lot of stuff.
I think.
You are keeping busy. Okay, very quickly, let us approve, hopefully, the January meeting minutes. Gail, those are the ones you did.
Yes.
Yes, very nicely done. Thank you.
you.
So do we have if you have read the minutes and if you approve them, then let's take a vote to do so. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the January meeting minutes. And
Second.
you're seconding it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll abstain.
Okay.
You'll abstain because you
Sorry, I
weren't
didn't
here.
interrupt you.
Okay. All in favor?
Before you discussion, I think I misspelled Linda's name. Linda, are you L-Y?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll correct that.
Great, well, that messes the whole thing up.
Oh, forget it now.
All right.
Do them over again.
You can't take them again.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the January meeting minutes are so approved. Committee updates and roundtable, very quickly, if anybody wants to say something, make it 30 seconds or less.
There's virtually nothing that's of importance to this committee discussed at the last town council meeting.
Thank you, Garden.
Okay, very good. I'm just going to say real quick that Veronique and I have been working with Robin Vogt, the town councilor, on a possible logo for Conservation Commission and Land Stewardship. And we're not showing it to everybody to ask for feedback yet because we still want to make a few revisions, but this is what he's come up with after some discussion. And the idea here is to denote river, meadow, forest, sky, sun, and wildlife. Just kind of everything that we're
Is that a
concerned
blue
about.
heron?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a white. Oh, well,
Is it a great blue heron?
Yeah, it's a great blue heron. That was actually Veronique's recommendation. So we're going to do a couple of different options for color, but the basic design, if you know, it seems pleasing.
No historic resources can be put in there?
What should we do? Put a little Bickford Chesley house in here?
You could put a little outline of a building.
That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Sure. Yeah, because you know we're going to meet with Robin again. We told him we would just kind of show this around real quick and get some initial feedback. But I see some nods of heads that you kind of like it.
The
Yes.
blue line is sort of reminiscent of a road.
Yes. Of a road.
Yeah,
road,
because
yeah.
it's so,
It's more like a
It's
road
so
than a
straight.
river.
so straight, so
Okay, so we
contained.
should make it a little more.
Make it
Yeah.
wavy.
A little more wavy.
Serpentine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Serpentine, I like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Looks great.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
No dog waste.
That's not a bad point. Make a little brown area. Good morning. Okay, so
Poop emoji.
okay, so we're working on this and you know bring it back to you. One person that I showed it to said, well, the colors are not they're kind of too bright to denote nature. So maybe we're going to work on the blues and maybe include some brown in there because there are trees that are brown. So anyway, that's kind of where we are.
It is kind of nice though to keep like the color consistency with like
The town logo, and that's what it
Yeah,
used to
yeah,
be.
right. Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent
Yeah.
of that.
you know, like, yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, Todd has his shirt on right now with it insignia.
yeah.
Yeah, see?
We got
Oh,
the big
there's one
one.
right there. But like, it has similar, conceptually, it's similar. I
Right.
like that.
Mm.
They're like compatible and, or kind of correlate to one another, so that's nice.
Okay, Andy, do you have a comment on that? No. Okay, I kind of thought that it might be fun, you know, once we get it finished, you know, to create some merch for it, you know, stickers, maybe, you know, ball caps, patches, you know, raise some
Rub-on
revenue.
tattoos.
Now, things we could sell for a couple dollars at the BioBlitz, for example.
Yeah.
Gotta start somewhere. I mean,
Okay.
Sell them at Wagon Hill.
Okay, John, do you have anything to talk about? Did you have something from Ag that you wanted to?
The Agricultural Commission did not have a quorum the other evening, so we had a very, very brief
Okay.
unofficial meeting.
Okay, great. Linda, anything?
No, Parks and Rec, I think everything's come up.
Everything is good?
And we discussed some of the parking stuff at our last
Yeah.
committee meeting.
Yeah, the parking, the kiosks and trail, everything.
Okay,
So,
very good.
yeah.
Okay, Elliot, you have anything you want to say as final comment?
No.
And Veronique, anything?
no, thank you.
Okay, who wants to make a motion?
Well,
Oh.
historic
Carolyn or
resources.
Ann?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing.
You're good? Okay. Who would like to make a motion to